Let's be honest, guys. Losing a band like My Chemical Romance is almost like waking up one day and realizing that you no longer have hemorrhoids, or realizing that that nasty wart that you had on your middle finger is finally dissipated. However, there's something out there that actually will make you quest or long or desire for My Chemical Romance to actually be back in action. And that's the fact of what has come ever since My Chemical Romance has evolved. And ever since My Chemical Romance has kind of had their career. And especially one particular band that has taken the world by storm over the past year and a half. A band that I'm pretty sure that almost 100% of you would gladly have go extinct in return for getting My Chemical Romance back. Now I know for metal fans and probably most of you here in the Cover Killer Nation, that almost sounds like trading, shit for shit. But it's one of those things where you have to look at how the shit smells. My Chemical Romance shit smelled pretty bad. But One Direction's shit smells a whole hell of a lot worse. Yeah, it's time for us finally to talk about One Direction, the 5 British youngsters that are taking the world by storm, 2 albums into their career, breaking various records, Guinness Book of World Records in fact, of the number of #1 statuses on the most country charts, things of that variety, selling numerous millions of copies of their now 2 albums worldwide, and essentially ushering in the new age of the boy band, or at least that's what the music community and the music business is hoping will happen. They're hoping that because of One Direction, there's going to be a new British invasion, and all I'm going to say is, music community, music business, stop. The reason for this is because this British invasion idea has been attempted, and to be perfectly honest, One Direction was part of a British invasion option that also included The Wanted. Now, that didn't exactly go so well. With One Direction, however, it's just something where they surpassed everything. Now, there is a band that sort of did something very similar, however, they had a lot more cohorts along for the ride that basically weren't just coattailing onto their success. Yeah, I know, it's been said before, but I'm going to say it again. The Beatles. Whenever the Beatles broke out back in the 1960s, the British invasion was on, and we got a plethora of tremendous rock bands. And of course, they all didn't exactly start off the way in which they ended up. If you listen to the Beatles' first material and then compare it to their latter era material, it almost sounds like night and day in some locations. Yeah, drugs will really do a lot to you kids, so even though people say drugs are bad, and they are, experiment a little bit, see what happens. But in this particular locale, with One Direction being a pure pop band, and with the music business shifting the way in which it did today, or as it has today, this is something where it's not necessarily going to have the same effect in the long run. But I'll tell you who is definitely thankful for One Direction coming along, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Justin Bieber. Bieber can finally grow up. Bieber can finally start the second wave of his career, where he kind of embodies a little bit more of a Justin Timberlake persona, where he goes and tries to focus his music toward a little bit more of an adult demographic, toward a little bit more adult ideals. He basically now has freedom to transition from teen icon to potential sex icon. And I know that's a scary thought for a lot of you, considering all of the memes that have already gone around for the past 3 years that are basically proclaiming him to be either gay, a girl, or, just non-sexual, period. But yeah, this actually has the potential. As my generation grew up with the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and 98 Degrees and still considers them to be sex icons to this day for whatever God knows reason, the same thing is going to happen with this new generation with a guy like Justin Bieber, the older ones, and may eventually happen with One Direction. Now, here's the one difference between One Direction and Bieber, and that's the fact that even though they do share the same age, they're from a different culture, they're from a different part of the world, so they're already into the things such as drinking or smoking and things like that, things that are a little bit dangerous, things that are a little bit risque for the teenage crowd over here, considering a plethora of the people that are listening to One Direction's music are probably under the age of 15. I've had people purchase this album for individuals as young as 4 or 5. Now, with this said, there's a couple of different things that need to be known. Firstly, One Direction is just another market trap. If you are a parent and you gave in to the Justin Bieber philosophy, well, congratulations, you have officially entered level 2, and level 2, guess what, is actually worse than level 1. It's just like a video game, where level 1 kind of lets you understand what it's like, what maybe you were like as a kid, torturing your parents to get you all sorts of gear for God knows who, or God knows what, for God knows what reason. But now, level 2, you're already pre-established, but now there's more traps, more pitfalls, more merchandise. Literally, you can deck out your whole entire house in One Direction gear. They have literally everything aside from toilet tissue. However, the music is just as generic as before. Now, some people may actually disagree with this, saying that it's a little bit more power pop, it's a little bit more geared towards rock music, as opposed to being bubblegum pop or clean pop, like we got with the Bieber fiasco. And you know what? There's actually a little bit of legitimate truth to that. But come on. Was the real solution to Justin Bieber 5 of them? Because that's kind of what they went for. That's what Simon Cowell basically decided to do whenever he saw all 5 of these guys individually on The Voice. That's right, these guys did not start off as a group. They were put together by that bitch from the Pussycat Dolls, and thanks to that, ba-bam, we have a media empire of shit. This is literally just Justin Bieber Rockstar 2.0, and it is literally 10 times worse. British Invasion, I don't think is going to happen. Mainly because I don't think anybody is going to be interested in anything aside from One Direction for at least the next 2 years. This is once again just a fad counterculture, something that we've been dealing with here in America, and it's also been dealing with in other portions of the globe for the past decade or so, and has actually popped up sporadically all throughout the course of music history. So this is not something that is going to last forever, so definitely that is one piece of good news for you guys. But for crying out loud, there are certain things that you don't do. There are certain things that you don't touch. One Way or Another is a song that was recorded in the 1980s that was about stalking. It was not meant to be this idea of romance or this idea of it's fun. Stalking is not fun. Stalking is dangerous. Stalking is what ends you up onto Catch a Predator or in prison. Either that or in a dark alley with your pants down after just getting anally raped. That's what happens whenever stalking occurs at extreme levels, and that's what that song is trying to really, tell you in the music. It's all right there in the lyrics. This is not something where you can convert the meaning to something else. I understand that the lyrics to that song were written in such a style where one could potentially allude it to something else. Alluding it toward getting a girl or finding love. I'm going to be with you. Even whenever you say that, it sounds slightly creepy. I know whenever I say it, I feel creepy saying it. So imagine what the message itself actually sounds like whenever you're a person who is receiving this message and it is unwanted, because that is what that song is dictating, and this was converted into a song of fun and about love. It's the same damn thing as Bieber. Wake up and smell the roses, wake up and smell the coffee, wake up before we throw tomatoes at your face. It is the same damn thing. Now, something else. One Direction seems to have a bit of a big mouth on them, considering they have social media. And they decide to pick fights with, legitimate bands that have been around for quite some time. Bands like Dying Fetus. Now I understand, One Direction has 10 million fans or whatever it is. Dying Fetus doesn't. But listen to the music. Dying Fetus is playing an immensely technical style of heavy metal. You guys are playing bubblegum power pop. Night and day difference. You guys have the backing of a major corporation run by a guy who was able to get 1 or 2 people, 1 or 2, mind you. Carrie Underwood is the biggest name that American Idol has ever given you. And Dying Fetus has been on a label and constantly performing well and is really considered an elite member of the metal genre for a number of years now. Think before you speak. Your time will eventually end. Dying Fetus, there's a good chance they're going to be remembered forever. One Direction will be remembered as a fad. Dying Fetus will be remembered by metal fans as legends. Now let's continue onward. Let's go to the merchandise. The merchandising on this is not unlike anything that we haven't seen before, except to the point that it's getting to absurd levels. To absurd levels. With Bieber, the merchandise was there, and it was placated all around. Different stores, different enterprises, different things. However, with this, imagine Justin Bieber and magnify it by 10. Like I said before, it's to the point where I'm surprised they don't have toilet tissue with their faces on it. One Direction, get something clear to your head. And if you think that I am an enemy for saying this, go right ahead. However, in a couple of years, you will recognize that my words were actually some sort of premonition for things to come. Enjoy your moments of glory. Enjoy your time in the sun. Enjoy your spotlight. Because the spotlight for any fad band like this expires, and it expires very quickly. The window of opportunity is currently one in which you have jumped through. However, eventually, that same window of opportunity will be the one that will be pushing you out the window. My Chemical Romance lasted 12 years. They were not considered a fad band whatsoever. However, they helped define a niche of music in the 2000s that, while many of us found it exceptionally annoying, is still something that's going to be considered important today. It was an important rock cultural fad that has actually spurned further development within that subgenre of music. You're not doing anything to really advance pop music. All that you are doing is currently enhancing what is currently being seen. You're not necessarily going to be causing a lot more boy bands or girl bands or whatever to look up to you guys and think, I need to do something above and beyond that and build off of that idea. They're going to want to be just like you because right now you guys are making a shitload of money. And by the way, consider an investment account. Don't just go blowing all that money. Because once it runs out for good. 12 years after My Chemical Romance began, they were gone. With a band like One Direction, this will probably be true after 5 years. And I'm not afraid to say that because the shelf life of these bands is very short-lived. My Chemical Romance is definitely not a favorite in coverkillernation lore. It's definitely not a band that I would definitely put on my top 50, 100, 250, or even 1,000 bands of all time. Mainly because they're just so damn annoying. But let me tell you something. If you gave me the opportunity to resurrect My Chemical Romance in exchange for the death of One Direction, I would do so in a heartbeat. While I would say right now, nah, 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 hey, 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 goodbye, My Chemical Romance, I would just as quickly say hello to them once again if it meant saying nah, 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 hey, 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 goodbye, One Direction. But then again, I guess considering everything I've just said, all I really have to do, all we really have to do, is just be patient. Because it's not something that is necessarily in question. It's more of a certainty than anything. Don't give in to the One Direction fad. Parents, I understand you have very little choice. What your kids like is what they're going to like. Am I necessarily saying not to buy any of the gear? To be perfectly honest, go right ahead. Allow them to experience the fad culture. The reason for that is because we've all been guilty of it at some point in time in our life. At some point in time of our life, something has resonated with us in that way that has caused us to give in to what is considered a fad. However, whenever everything kind of falls apart, teach them a little bit about individuality. Teach them a little bit about being their own person. Teach them a little bit about not following the herd. Because the herd will only lead you off cliffs, similar to the game Lemmings. But being an individual, you'll see the cliff coming and turn right around. One Direction, enjoy your moment in the sunrise. Because whenever the sun sets on your career, it sets for good. It brings about turmoil, it brings about solo careers that are failed, or it brings about terrible reality TV shows about your wedding to a pop princess that leads in divorce. Enjoy it while it lasts. But I will not be giving in. I will not be buying in. Your stuff sucks. Don't ruin any more classics. And above all, have a jolly old day.